Uh,
Back with the living.
Yes. It is 1:30 on March 26th. This is the service area quarterly meeting for South Village. Service area. So we have two of our three committee members here in attendance. So, well, someone put on that out. You have myself, Rose, your service area manager, and Delise. We also have, since we have only two of the three, we don't have quorum to make an official meeting to do any action. Doesn't look like we have any action items for this, so we will be continuing this more as a workshop and discussion. It's going to run basically as a common meeting, since you don't have all three, we can't vote on it.
So we will want to agree, so it needs to be 100% for quorum.
Yes, with, you have up to five, your quorum needs three,
Right.
we can, you. It's not discussion, we can still have this meeting. You need all three here to do any voting.
Okay.
So is that something that we should look at changing, so that only two out of the three here that still constitutes one?
Because I know we can have five, but we only can have three in our quorum position too.
For voting, yes, to hold a meeting, you would still need a full quorum. There's going to be, since your quorum minimum threshold is three, you would need three in attendance, but still, we can do, you can do voting by proxy, if there's an item by email, not voting at for any action.
And voting by emails if the bylaws that permits that.
We can't do that. Yes, we would typically then move it into a meeting for discussion, so that way it's seen by the community before moving forward. That's why often your items have been meeting requirements by any large expenditures. Reserve expenditures go on the pro board agenda, so it's being noticed to your service area, to everyone. So if they want to petition or attend and voice opinions, it can be done by that higher level. We're just trying to bring that in, more towards the law. That's why these meetings are not public, where any of your service area residents can come attend these meetings. But we haven't been seeing much attendance of them, but it's more of a terms of making it available to, in terms of closed door, your committee's meeting, but you're not invited to have a discussion. But like I said, since I'm your it would really, that would only, having two of you here would only affect if there were action items on your agenda, which there aren't, so you're not. So can I have verification release that this meeting was notified? You, we have just discussed quorum, so we don't necessarily need call it to order since we don't. We still can hold this as a discussion to discuss all this business. Any updates you'd like to provide on the My Celebration GoGov requests and closed items?
First off, village, all of them have been addressed. The total like service area up to 2 days ago, we had one request, just a service area alone. We had 94 posts. So we had.
What are those ranging from? Like we're saying, I got a route that's out versus.
We actually get a variety of things. It can be pertaining to service area, irrigation, tree. We can see soffit issues, but we also get water issues, portable water, other areas. Rose?
Yes, roofs leaking, things like
Yeah.
that. Are supposed.
Sound is low.
That's the computer. I mean, is the sound bar actually on?
That's going to be your TV. Sometimes.
You can't hear me?
Give us 1 second, Rose, we're gonna get you. We can hear back.
There we go. See this other guy? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Rose? can you go
Yes.
ahead? There we
Yes.
go. Thank you, sorry about that.
Okay. Okay, no worries.
There's three things that are going to just fall in this week with these team. all gonna be forgotten, okay, Rose is, it's out sick. Very
Well,
ill.
thanks for coming, Rose. It's Carl.
Hi, Carl. I wouldn't miss it. Thanks for being here.
Good man.
Thank you.
Our next discussion item is financials. We go over them wherever you'd like. Before we really do, is there any key items that you'd like to discuss regarding your current financials? Start some conversations around it, and see how that organically moves as well.
I know one of the sticking. And Brian definitely would be on this back to the lane. And it was gonna roll into one of into some of the other items there. But for back to my, since I've been saying this for God knows how long, the idea of how much we pay for the way the service area looks. And, you know, like just in front of our building right now, I mean, leaves are still piled all over the place, all over the grass, which means the grass is dying, which means Exquisite's gonna come back as usual and say, oh, well, you know, some trees killing the grass. But when the grass isn't being maintained to get those leaves off that cause the dead spots, that, you know, I kind of look back at Exquisite or whichever one service is that we have, because this has been a continual thing.
And I looked in the upper links discussion about the for rating. When the service area scope work for the contracts was written, there was requests from service areas for any adjustments of what they'd like to look into them. Some that I happened to be handling. Items that it is, quotes came back, of course, with different costs for different services provided. Removal of leaves is in there and nothing specific. Rating, so not much of a blowing.
Yeah.
I still think, I mean, I was just passing by today because I thought I knew I had this meeting, so I stepped out. And as there's still a high amount of leaves. I know we're ending the season, so they should be, yes.
But you also have all the saplings, a little more, you have all those saplings that are coming out of the grass right now, which are, you know, this high off the ground, which means
Okay.
things aren't being done right again, still. And it's just, when I look at that, and when I look at items saying we've just spent month ending $4,000 on our service contract, which I know we're locked into a rate, you know, whatever contract it is. And I look across the street at the condos where they obviously have someone else and probably not as much of a service area, but again, back to the idea of what we're paying for what we're getting is still not there. And this, again, they keep beating dead horse. This is continue. This has always been a problem across the board. Which management company's been, which whomever is sat, unfortunately, in these seats, it's never been right, and they don't know the answer other than going that these landscaping companies need to be on really, really short leash because they just get into the fact of blow them out and barely even do that sometimes. And, you know, I mean, and what happens is us as the homeowners get saddled with the, well, now we need to replace the sod. And it's a continual thing. And again, kind of, I don't know if this needs to be back again into the hands of CROA and CDD involved again to where we need to actual long-term solution about how the trees affect service areas, because I think every service area, I'm sure you guys can attest to that, what I can, every service area has the same complaints, all trees are killing their stuff, because those trees are not made for easements or small.
So your original landscaping plans were not built for the shade canopies that are there. That's-
Well, they were at the time, and they were saplings, and they didn't foresee the growth, but again, kind of just to pull it all back is my thing always, I look at it back to the cost, because again, we're paying in their contract. And I mean, I like the guys, they're nice people, but again, we're still looking at when they were there, just, I think they were there last week, or even I thought I saw somebody on the camera the other day, it looks like they edged and just walked, you know, still all leaves are there, still like, I mean, I know I see the guys down here, But we, well, it's, we don't have necessarily that level of service with our contract, but I think we hear almost every day. And
So what you're seeing at the Lexington property, they have exquisite as well, their landscapers, but you're seeing their on-site maintenance staff.
No, 100%.
Pro parks are on-site maintenance staff is on daily.
And I'm not expecting it every day. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, obviously, that's, yeah, we would have to pay for that. And yeah, I don't think,
Yeah, I mean, these are issues that were brought up in landscape walkthrough.
Okay.
And I talked to Brian specifically about these issues, and the inconsistency of whole service. You have one week where they're blowing all the debris onto the owner's property. And that was a good week. It took me 3 bags of debris put into the trash that I raked off the lawn and off away from the landscaping. 3 bags. Now, it was so thick, nothing could grow under that. The other issue that I talked about, landscape, there was the amount of mulch that's put down, because they don't break away the old mulch. They just keep piling on top, and we happen to have lilies or whatever they are. And of course, between the trees, building up their leaves and the stuff that falls from the trees and the mulch, it's choking out plantings as well as creating fungus underground that is eventually going to kill the shrubs and plants. So this is, and I brought it up last spring, last May, they put a sod down. Haven't bothered to check to see if the sprinkler system. The sprinkler system is disconnected from the street to where it's be located between the 2 buildings. And that's, obviously, when it came down to June, everything was dead. So, to me, it's communication, it's quality control. Somebody has got to check to say, well, put the sod down, let's see if the sprinkler system is the irrigation in good shape. So these are issues that, just to me, makes common sense. But it seems like we don't have anybody quality control checking anything. And as an owner, I would pay $10 to make sure that we hire somebody to go out and check this stuff. I'm not expecting the office workers. You have to have some kind of quality control. Because if you don't, we're just sitting here recording, talking about the same stuff, the same issues, and nothing gets resolved. And when I look at how the landscaper, I don't know whether he's better compared to other people or worse, but you don't 1 week blow the leaves into the street and break them up and bag them. And then the next week, you blow them back into the people's property. There's no consistency to that. And I've talked about it. So there's your quality controllers to make sure these things are done right. Right now, as Carl has said, the density of the leaves and the other debris that's falling from the trees, that's what you see. You don't see anything that's green. So, and it's not just along the sidewalk between the curb and the street. It's not, it's all the properties. They just have this build up and build up, and there's just nothing that's going to resolve unless we either change the contract, or change vendors, but we've got to be very specific in the contracts, exactly what our expectations are. And we have to also be very transparent with the owners to let them know that we're charging X per month. How much of that's going towards irrigation and landscaping out of the total that we're paying? Because people need to have an idea of cost and break down those costs and understand that you consolidate your information, whether or not reporting and everything else a certain way. But I think that we need to communicate to the owners more effectively and give them the detail necessary to understand like this, that they're paying for. But the landscape is a challenge, and it hasn't improved in 2 years in my opinion.
The end of month.
And the other issue with that is,
Next door.
the other issue is that if you do have your gate off your property, they're supposed to come in and blow the debris and whatever off, and they don't do it. And I've talked to Brian about it, but it still doesn't get resolved. So I anticipate that Brian's way over his head. Information's not getting sent down to his manager, or whoever, his properties on a day-to-day basis. So it's, again, just, I feel like we're beating the dead horse here. And if Carl has said these issues have come up before, talking about the same things, something's broken. Fix it.
18% is your.
And how would I next that?
I think your
Right,
budget
but
is,
does every owner get that information? And is there some recap of what to explain those numbers, or is it just the numbers and you're just supposed to be smart and understand the percentages and the dollar amounts and what goes here, what goes there, the reserves and everything else?
no, that's not lined out separately. I mean, it's not lined up the manager report as well, but we can happily answer those questions if they come to us, or but that's not something that's been noted as a specific request to be.
But like even when you send out your level once a year, people change it. They, a breakdown of that number goes to like. That would be beneficial because everybody's going to look at that level, this is going to get changed, that they're on charge. So that's a perfect opportunity to make sure that people are looking at your information and where you have them, have their attention because you're changing the dollar amounts. Monthly basis for next year, at least they can see it. Speak to it.
Yes. So we typically want to explain what any increases were contributed by, but not the budget emails that go out in there. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like $547 a month goes to what?
Yeah, that seems like a fair.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like, when a property owner either buys or sells a property, they really don't know what they leave on the table. So for instance, somebody sells their unit and they've been paying their fee for a period of time. I know that your accounting probably can't set up 39 units that have individual accounts for each owner. But there is software out there where you can spread that across everybody's account. So that if somebody comes in and buys a property, pays a property, they can see that there's a balance there. That has not been used.
The estoppel. Yeah, when you sell your property, the title company gets an estoppel for, and
But that's the estoppel I'm talking about. When you pay your monthly assessment, you pay that for a period of time. Okay. And you know that, yes, we're paying for irrigation, landscaping, repairs or whatever. If somebody puts in $10,000 into their account, are they getting $10,000 worth of services when they sell the property? There's a balance there. There's something of value that the seller of property needs to. Because obviously $10,000 is spent on particular owner's property. So is accounting allowing you to spread across 39 units? When you get those fees, they go into that account, but you can consolidate, you can break it apart, you can assess everybody $100 a month for landscaping, whatever it is, and you can assess repairs and maintenance, whatever the case is, or if there's a particular property that has a lot of maintenance done, there's a roof issue, stucco, something happens. Can you show that that particular account's on the book? It's just a better way of people to see what's going into the account and what's coming. Even if it has to be some general assessments, everybody gets $100 charge for landscaping. But at least it gives people something idea that you walk away knowing that I don't know that I got my money's worth for this 2 years I paid.
I understand where you're coming from. Just trying to think. It's not something that looks.
And unfortunately, when somebody sells a property and there is an issue with a roof leak or something like that, and it costs X number of dollars to have it fixed because of the inspection. You know, everybody pays into it, which is the whole concept of the town association elections, but that could be thousands and thousands of dollars that could complete reserves, but everybody has to pitch in. But if it's a problem, it's a common problem for non-units, then we need to do an inspection and do some type of a, you know, quality control check to see, well, if they had that problem, is everybody else having the same problem? Because it's going to help try to plan for reserves if there is a common issue.
I mean, we do that for certain cases, in that sense of even, you know, with the hurricane comes through, we do inspections post that and looking at full roofs. When it comes to the reserve studies done every 3 years, they come out and assess every single line, every property to review. And even we have one, you know, in a different service area, looking at balcony replacements, because a couple balconies are being affected. We're looking at bringing in structural engineer to review every balcony. So we can look at, before we address this for the some, let's address it for all. And not even just address it all on the same matter, but why are we bringing in the structural engineers? So we can say, yes, we are replacing the full balcony on this one, we don't need to do railings on that one. So that way we're not doing the full replacements if it's not necessary on some, because this side of the street doesn't face the hard wind, so it's not affected like that side of the street is, but.
Because I'll give you an example. I had an inspection done of my town. And there was a PVC pipe that didn't go all the way to the roof for the primary unit. And as a result of that, when it was repairs done back in 2017, I assumed that this big heavy things of shingles were thrown into the roof, knocked the pipe through, and it was shingled over. So the pipe never actually vented out to the outside. But looking at it, you can see that the pipe comes up through the wall between the garage, so between the garage and the primary building. And what they did was they did a 45-degree angle and did another one to get the pipe away from the garage wall. So they had enough roof to be able to install a cap that went through. And I assume it was every unit has the same problem. Was what they ended up doing when they built the cap, and they painted PVC so blend in with the shingle and you wouldn't see it. And it also was on the other side, so you couldn't see it from the streets. But my gut feeling tells me that not only is my home an issue, but every other home is the same issue. Because they did not secure that PVC pipe inside. Yeah. So again, it's looking at that issue and saying, we may have a problem, with every company. So that's been my experience at this point. And I would be remiss in not reporting them to the management team because I anticipate.
Are you noting that, please? That's a good, yeah, to look into for the roofing. Were you having issues with your dryer? Like, was it venting at all?
No, the dryer was vented,
Okay.
the washing machine was vented, but the whole primary bathroom. It originally was built with a PVC pipe to go through the roof, which was all on the roof. And it went through it one time. I anticipated when they were doing the repairs to it in 2017. And they're putting these 100-pound shingle packages on the roof. that the thing dropped down. And the roofers just saw a hole and they just shingled right.
The roofers did all that.
Yeah.
That's not right. Oh, that's not really.
So,
Where are we with the roof? I know that was a big discussion item at past your service.
well, I think we were looking at getting bids, because I thought on the 6th there was going to be some consideration of RFPs, and it was going to take some time to get that information put together.
2025.
Yeah, this year.
The notes, you can take that.
What's on the next? That's why it's easy.
And I don't know, the owners know that replacing the roof that was here in 2017, which is basically a 10-year roof, and that's certainly you get more useful life out of 10 years.
Yeah, so it's, yeah, it's up in 2025. I know that's one, I mean, we are looking at this with another property that's looking at some roof that by the reserve study, it's done every 10, it has a roof to expire 10 years. We know that some roofs can go longer than 10 years. And so that's one that we just had this discussion yesterday with Dow, is we can bring out an engineer to review the roofs this year, if we want to do that first, unless there's more information I'm not aware of on the current state of the roofs, where it's we can, we get a certified opinion on saying, no, the roofs can last another year, which is, better for the whole community in that sense of why replace it if it can last another year.
So then the reserves stay as is to support the roof being replaced the following year. So you don't
Yeah.
use the reserves for something else.
No,
Once they're, I think once.
They're earmarked.
For, at least for the big things.
you cannot use your reserves for items that are not allocated. And you really can. Your hands are tied very tightly on. By their certain allocations. So let's say you didn't want to use it for roof, and you said, I want to use this kind of landscaping because we can use it. You can really get in some situations.
I know we've done that in the past.
Yeah.
So, but not for landscaping. We turn around and I know we've stopped the fence replacement because they kind of went out, looked at all the fences and were like,
Oh, yeah, that's
yeah,
not
that's like, all right, we need $500 out of the 8,000 or whatever. And we just were like, great, shift that to the, like, we've literally been, I know in the past, it was kind of like shift whatever we have.
And the
You
idea
put it in that bucket.
is that hopefully one it helps for if it's, there's looking at 1 year that your contribution is significantly higher and offset that, as an option, or you can, just hold on to it so you have a well-funded account where if your roof is subject to be 630,000, but when the estimates come in and they're 700,000, where do you can cover these bids for them.
And we have the, what is it, 200. I did the budget. You did the same thing I did.
Thanks for speaking. Hey.
How you doing? Does for the reserve, again, for the roofing project, for what we have, it has our, was it 100 and something, 200 something thousand that we got from the settlement?
That's not gonna be represented in your expenditure plan, but that's just gonna be represented in your account balance and your reserves, which is why.
So right towards those proceeds went directly to reserve.
That was our, if I remember correctly, it was our thing, it's like, okay, it's divided up between the three service areas based upon, yes, I don't know, some got worse for wear than others. That was, I hate to say it, I think out of all of us when we're sitting in the service areas, that was like I think the best, cleanest way for everyone. Kind of was like, we really don't know there's 150 units and there were that many involved in this mess. So it's, and I think we ended, like I said, I think we had, can't remember what the number was. It is no if not 200. Rose, I don't know if you remember what that number was, but again, like, let's say we're saying the roof's gonna cost 600,000. Is that 200,000 already applied to that? So really, we're looking at 400.
Yes, the money that was given for the litigation that you guys had is into your research, yes.
Okay, so if we're looking at our reserve balance, that would include that money already in there.
Yes. In your fund on page 5 is, it shows your, the third line all the way to the right, of 744,986. That is including that. Yes,
So, and that's our reserve fund.
that's your reserve fund as a whole. Do keep in mind, you have an exponentially high interfund assets line, which is the last under assets.
Yes.
That is your, what should be contributed from your assessments to, so your reserve contributions all go into your main operating fund and then get transferred to your reserves. Your operating cash has been running very tight for a couple of quarters. That has deferred payments or deferred transfers into your reserve. So if there's not enough money in your operating, cover operating expenses, instead of, well, your bills have to be paid, so the transfer into your reserves, or your contribution to your reserve is deferred. That line there shows your total deferments thus far. So really your accounts, as far as we're looking at your annual budget, would have 101,000 reflected as in your reserve fund. Obviously, it's not going to fund that because you don't have enough cash in the account.
And really, what's driving our operation of that? Is that coming from all of our?
It's been trickling. So a couple things, anytime we get, last year, tree removal, any roof repairs, any lines in your main operating budget that are not funded or expenses coming that you say, where do we get the money come from? Usually if you have a surplus, you can pay out that surplus. If you don't have a surplus, you're eating out of your limited operating budget. So your operating cash sitting at 16,000 is quite important. Most service areas are you should have 3 months worth of operating expenses in your cash. Most of them are sitting right around 1 month of supply. And that's about who you are, but it just comes into a pickle when you have additional expenses.
Right, and with that 101, I mean, would you say most of that is roof repairs?
That number's been growing. It's not like we're one. Sure,
No, I know, but meaning,
why has you been able to make your payments is going, or your transfers is a mixture, kind of on a monthly basis. Some are, a lot of it has been.
that's what I mean, if you divvy up that 101,000, what piece of the pie is roof, what piece of the pie is landscaping, what piece of the pie is this? Because that will tell us where we have, again, a problem. I mean, I'm gonna get my crystal ball out and say, I'm sure it is the roofs. Which again, to me, would kind of make sense if that came out of the reserve, unfortunately.
Well, I mean,
due to the roof.
And even looking at the report, you can't report and say, again, if it's 18% of our monthly assessment goes to irrigation and landscape, can't you break the report or add a report that says, here's landscaping and irrigation? If it goes in, this is what comes out. This particular aspect of the service area is running on deficit. The roof, you've got 30%, 40% of the monthly fee is going to the roof. These are the expenses that are associated with maintaining the roof maintenance. Can we split out those things so we can see where the problem is?
That's communicated on page 6, the actual versus budgeted of your revenues and expenses. So if we say in kind of the first section where it says month ending at the very top, and we go down to roof repairs. 3/4 of the way down. So you see roof repairs, your total repairs in the month of So we can see in our month and our year to date, which kind of are in the same line.
And this year.
Yeah, they're $1,100. Your budgeted money for roof repairs on an annual basis has been $0. So it is showing you have an overage of $1,100 right there.
With that.
Yes.
It's taking that owner's assessment and breaking that down and saying, okay, let's pull that assessment down to the expense area and show revenues from landscaping, expenses from landscaping, repairs and maintenance, revenues from, that are all, you're taking that assessment basically and breaking it down according to the percentage of application.
We can see, we are bringing in an in-house finance manager that's starting next Wednesday. To find the screening. And the difference with this role is it's a fully cited finance manager. So Jennifer Rowe, our current finance manager, is mainly on our celebration portfolio accounts, but not 100%, and it's a remote position. The new one is on site with the extended scope being to provide more support in our service areas, and we're traveling for large projects and reserve, tracking of reserve expenditures.
So instead of consolidating revenue, break it out by expense.
That is not within the current scope of the management contract, but it is something we can, when we go to this position and see if that's something we can look into. For the service.
Yeah, because then it tells me exactly where I have to
Yeah,
and what's falling short and why. So you can kind of drill down on what quicker issues.
because you're gonna see here, I mean, right now, the main things are over expense, general repairs, $500 and that line. Anything else is on track, doing good on your water bill right now this year, which is great. We're seeing that overall, that most of the water bills, been consistent on a budgeting perspective, year after year, we're looking good on most accounts. Right now, as far as what was budgeted to correct. Electricals are right in line, a little under as well. So that's the main on the financials. The last thing I'm really discuss before we, move on is, and this is something, I really do plan to have our finance manager look into, because our next meeting like this will be our Q2, which will be heavier when will be at the same time as larger budget discussions. Started building up 2026 budget. Overall, so if you flip back, or if you reference the number that we got, the back page, your page 5, your replacement fund actual balance is sitting at $704,000. Your year-end expected amount, so if we look at if that's where it is that good, is that bad? When we look at your reserve funding plan, South Village, it had you entering the year of 2025 with $745,000. So that would be your January. So you're right there, a little short, since it's 2 months in, but in your contribution has been about $12,000 a month. Would be the deferred, or would be moving into that if we were moving it all in. So it's not a bad spot, right, as of the moment. Where it can hit a concern, and this is a big thing that I am planning to take to help with our projections, and this will help with how we need to budget and allocate for reserves in our service areas, is the funding plan has a bit of a weird spike in it. It shows last year, in 2024, you had a longer. So your contributions to your reserves in 2023 were $90,000. In 2024, $122,000. 2025, $153,000. So when we saw your service area go up,
Last year, this year.
19%. Yeah.
$5. Previous year was, I think, almost 50.
Yes, it did. Yeah, sorry. Your monthly assessments went from 457 through 558, $91. A heavy amount of that percentage is allocated in that $31,000 to your reserve. 50. So this is why I really want to discuss this when we get the finance manager and see how we can play it out. Because I don't know necessarily if you would need an increase in your reserve contribution, if we can make your contributions every month, if we're not deferring anymore. If we're making it sorry, let me rephrase.
Well, technically, again, we don't know if we can or we can't, because we don't know 100% what that 101,000 is.
The 101,000 at this point, it's an IOU.
No, I know that, but you can't effectively budget if you can't effectively, and again, just identify what we've spent the majority of the 101, or is it equal across the board and it's, a quarter? And it's this for every problem we've had. So until we have that, we can't actually effectively do anything until we know what the extent of that spend towards. And again, I'm got dollars going, that's it was roof repair, and then I know those trees are expensive when those come, so next thing, but. No.
And have we resolved responsibility of the trees themselves? In other words, is the homeowners association responsible for cutting back branches, cutting back the trees from the buildings? Or is that CBD, is that CROA, or,
On a high level, where it is, and this is currently between the general councils of CDD. That is mainly regarding CROA, not including service areas. Is, as I think you just mentioned, which is the section not over the road, any trimming of the tree would be the responsibility of the service area. Any trimming of the tree over the road will be the responsibility of CDD. Any too aggressive trimming of that tree done by the service area that could potentially kill the tree, and would be replacement of the tree by the service area. We have seen it. Yes, and I have had these pushbacks by every committee, all the condo associations, by by residents, and
This isn't a fight that just started with you.
no, it's not, and it's, that's why it's in
Council.
that's why it's in council. It's coming out to look like that's not going to be adjusted because of that's how the governing documents were written. They were they were providing, I guess, a courtesy service for the past 25 years, that now reviewing their document, they'd be like, they don't. And that's why they stopped, which is now not meeting expectations of homeowners based on the standing practice.
Well, it goes back to that.
it shifts the financial responsibility to a different group of people, pay for it every month versus they're all paying for it.
Honestly, again, that's an easy, that should have been,
We
should have been a CID.
So we actually did have a different service area that did occur this suspense. They did a large tree trimming of these new trees, to remove them from that because they were having they were having extreme issues with their plantings, just not surviving. And because the shade's going to be, they spent about $9,000 to trim the canopy only over the service area. And thank goodness it has actually proved successful. They're getting much better plant growth, much better easement growth.
I know we tried,
But that's something that's got to get resolved because that's going to continue to be a problem for the service area. And
What it's most likely going to look like.
you just need to know that.
Yeah.
continue. Celebration outfits doing this. And hopefully never getting anywhere because neither side will budge.
It looks like it's getting somewhere now, but it's not in favor for the service areas or for.
Well, it's never seen. These are taped on camera, that's why. CDD has always been running away from this problem for as long as every member that's been around there has been here. They've been running away from the responsibility of the trees that they are telling us we have to keep there. And I know one of the former CDD members, or even, he still may be there, said that the county won't allow us to plant different trees. I've never heard of such a thing. Because it was on the master plan, and that was the tree that was in that. And if I drive anywhere in Celebration, there are multiple trees planted. So that load of horse crap has been perpetrated long enough. And I mean, I think you know, it comes down to, we're kind of stuck as homeowners because if we don't pay our CDD fees and our taxes, we get liens and fines and levies. If we don't grow it, obviously we can't take care of it or isn't taken care of. So, you know, homeowners are again stuck with the,
No, you're,
with the problem once again. And I mean, this goes back to all of the homeowners. This isn't even just in the service area. This is every resident in Celebration's problem with these trees. And again, I'm not a non-tree guy, you know, I love the trees and trees are great. I just think they pick the wrong thing for future, time, works great. But I think,
the sustainability planning was not.
yeah, no, I mean, again, these trees are planted in space by the space, so.
Yeah, but when we discussed sustainability planning, what we're planning to do, we have time, since this was just completed, your last reserve study, and we do a new study every 3 years. We should know a lot more by then. Is what it might anticipate looking like, is the request that is done, now that it's all been watched, that the tree on this side is the responsible area, would be to add a line in the reserves for easement tree trimming of service area. And that way, at least from a sustainability end, we can fund it like that. And it's not gonna come as special one-time payments. How are we paying for this? And in that same case, like you mentioned with the walls, where if it's up every 8 years to be looked at, and we hit it and say, well, we don't need it, or we really only need it on that that one wall, so we can spend a portion of it and roll the others into other items. So that's right now what we're looking at with it, and where the funding of it will be. Right now, if any large issues were to happen with that, I think we slipped part views out of the landscaping improvements reserves, right? Or they didn't get that operating.
They pay that on reserves.
Yeah, they paid out in reserves. So any type of tree work like that, we can move under your landscaping improvements line from your reserves, so it's not, so it is coming out of reserves. But your association's funded around 7,000 for the next 2 years annually on landscape improvements. But that's also the money for actual land.
Which again, to that thing, the idea of holding, they're not doing the right job, we're not paying to replace the thing they should have been covering and making sure they like, again, back to like the grass with all the leaves covering over the top, killing the grass, not coming to clean the leaves out. The problem with service, not a problem of the grass is dying because of the trees.
I agree with that.
And that's been a longstanding thing also, is that our landscape improvements are to fix things that have been broken versus actual. The plant didn't survive there because it was well maintained, it was just that wasn't the right space for it.
Or its maturity because it's 30 years old. Or
Right, whatever the case is.
No.
No, and I don't think that's been the case over this time, because, I mean, it's been, our main thing for grass, and grass is dying ridiculously in most places. I know back in the other side of the park, we've had that problem over there for years. I don't ever know if there was supposed to be a small test area done with special type of grass that was supposed to hold down.
considered.
Yep. And did that ever happen? Did it
Yes.
hold?
Yes, been there about 6 months. It's holding well. We've been using that actually as a prototype for citrus shaded areas for all of our easement areas, service areas.
And that's the grass, correct? Not, it's vines or anything.
The new grass on Heritage Hall.
No, behind the heritage wall.
I think it's actually, I think it looks citrus.
What you're saying, I get you, sorry.
I'm referencing what I want to say you're talking about, which is
Is the evening grass?
grass in a service area, your service area behind the back fields.
Yes, behind the back.
Spring Park Loop.
Things.
You get mud.
Yeah.
And we did one of our over for you over. And
So, yeah, with that, it's newer, genetic hybrid of the St. Augustine. It worked really well there. We've tried it now at Long Meadow in some shade sections. It's worked really well there. We planted Savannah Square perimeter with it 2 months ago. It's doing so well there that they're actually going back to Savannah for service area where it had some where facade failed in the past. And it's getting replanted with this species because it is showing, it's showing better withholding in the areas, even after a couple months. That still is, I mean, that section is still our longest standing prototype, or, test section.
Two questions. When you have the meetings and everybody has their own issues in their service area, which is normal. But when you see a common thread that would benefit all the service areas to come back and you just finished our quarterly meetings with everybody and, here's some great ideas other people have that we can use and apply to all the service areas, so we're all on the same page. And I'll give you an example. Some of these reserve areas are taking the reserves and investing into CDs or whatever, creating better portfolios. I don't know that we do that. We do, I don't know that. And then I ask the question, why don't we? And then if there has to be some approval for it, why is it not coming back from management saying, look, we're seeing this as a trend. We think it'd be beneficial for your service area to do the same thing. But unless somebody talks about it, you don't know. So where do we go with investing that $700,000? Even if it's laddered in a portfolio that it spins off cash flow every quarter, whatever the case is, every month even, so that you have something additional to add to the bottom line to take care of some of these unexpected expenses. You have that additional.
Yeah, we are doing that. Two common trends right now. That one, which I was trying to get to before I did, I went into more discussing because most of this is planned to be used this year, so we don't want to put it in a CD if we are using it this year. And the other item is just been going over the current level and funding contribution of reserves. That's going to be the one that has been a big outstanding. We've understood, evaluated that that's been a big request. I don't understand why there's so much money going here and we can't use. So that's why we've been spending more time in these meetings talking about the reserves, not just talking about our operating budget. So those are really the two right now. But I would recommend that maybe Rose, at least you guys further in this process with South Village, is if we are, I know in our last discussion, last quarter, we discussed looking at, RFP, a roof project. Is that something that we're still looking at, or how are the roofs? Is it something we want to look at doing getting an engineer to provide a recommendation of delaying a year?
I believe this meeting is where Roland's going to bring up what they want to plus move forward, creating RFP, plus the fund, just to make sure that they will know how to be. So, yeah, not moving forward, but if that's something that is.
Well, I guess kind of part of back to even the beginning of that is back to that $101,000 of unknown. Well, now, when I say unknown, I won't say unallocated, but yeah, basically knowing again, are we looking at 101,000 in roof repairs, and then we go, okay, well, clearly, I think then that means we need to look into that roof project moving a little faster.
I mean, even on a comparative basis, I mean, if this is just for this year, or this is a carryover of previous years, what is the analysis? Where is the, most money spent? And where's the shortfall? Where's the, break it down. I mean, to me, it's a number that's getting bigger and it's not, you kind of forget what is the composition of that number. Makes sense.
So my suggestion is we take a two-pronged approach on this. One, my recommendation is that we would have an engineer report done for the roofs. Because if we want to do them this year anyway, we should still have that done so we can understand the actual scope, knowing the complications that this roof has had. So even if it's a, no, we want to replace the roof this year, let's still go with that approach. And if it's a, we want to delay, well, then we already started the process of having that, so we can at least get a professional opinion, third party that goes to the roof and assessing the part.
And they need to know, they need to look at plans, instruction plans, to see how that roof was made, what should be there that's not there. You know, it's just not, you know, taking, you know,
Take down, but
yeah, it means, you know, let's go back to plans and see what's there and what should be there.
we'll see what they did. Well, okay.
That's it. Because,
I have to say, we've been here since, 5, 6. Wasn't until that roof repair did, at least for us, allow help from those. Prior to that, those roofs were holding up. I think we had one other. But it was minor.
so it begs the question, well, okay, now it's a worse scenario than it was before. What fell through the cracks? Was it the quality of the contractor?
Yeah.
Was it the quality of not having management look at this and making sure that it was appropriately replaced?
We got, well, the guy who was heading on the top of the project was the roof company, so. The guy who was inspecting the roof job was part owner of the roofing company, which is never disclosed, so.
That was the previous one.
No, that wasn't the management company, that was, yes, that was CCMC had hired. Whatever that guy's name was, who ended up in the mixture coming out, finding out that he was part of one of the roof companies that was involved, that was out of state, that wasn't a Florida company, that was, and there was this list of just all the red flags that went out that should have never.
Right, so where's our quality control over that process? You know, you could hire anybody and they say they're great, but how do we know that they carried out the project? You know, do we have somebody inspecting that work as it gets through the stages of repair?
Excuse me, could you hear me?
Yeah, Rose.
Okay. The roof project, why it went into litigation is because we know it was a very bad job. You know, we're aware of that. We were not the management company at that time. My recommendation is we get the inspector. And now that we have knowledge of some other things, because there was no way of us to know, like in Mr. Rob's case of the cap that was covered or whatever. Now that we have that information, we will provide it to the engineer and he will check into that also. They will do a thorough inspection, and doing the roof project per se, they will do inspections also. So that's why we encourage and we want the engineer there, because they will help us with that. I will say we do that. I'll contact Karen's Engineering and probably another company. If so, Karen's has done most of our roofing in other areas, and they've been there checking. So you know, they've been there, like in Parkview, they were part of the project. The other thing is on the $100,000, I will talk to Jennifer. I know she's very busy and we're getting a new manager, but she's really aware of what that's about. I'm sorry, I'll ask her if she could provide that detail for them so that they could be, you know, they can know exactly what it is. Sounds good?
That works for me, yeah, I mean, I think it'll just help everyone, obviously.
Okay.
And where we're, and how much further down the hole we're gonna keep going, I'd say, because at this point, we're at 101, so at what point does that get funded, or is that's already fully funded, so that's why the 101,000 has already been moved from reserve and put into operating, correct?
It's not, that line is a ghost line in the sense of it's an
Mhm.
it's that money, that's why you can see it being in parentheses, because it doesn't exist and it doesn't exist right there. So it's saying you over the years should have contributed $100,000 more into your reserves, and now you haven't.
So.
So and that's what brings exactly to your question. So you should either see $101,000 higher in your operating cash, which is evident that it's not there. Or your question is, well, where did the money go? Which is most likely going to be, it has been used for operational expenses in here, in which
Mhm.
video, some,
Right.
realization.
And then that's kind of where, because we're looking, again, if I can understand correctly, column one's operational fund, column two is reserve fund. So overall, I get, but meaning, I guess the point is that 101 has been spent over time. So it's not really a ghost fund, it's funds that have been removed from our account at some
We
point.
basically borrowed from our reserves.
Yeah,
To fund the operations, but we still build the reserves $100,000.
Yes, you've been using it by deferring payments to your reserve. Yes. Got it. Because since like you said, since you cannot use your reserve funds for operation. If your cash strapped, you just defer the payment into it. So you're using your association revenues to do that instead of their intended use.
Basically, what we're saying is you've been underfunding the reserves. Actually, right now, the contribution that reserve study is saying for this year is $228,000, and we're only contributing $153,950 because we don't want the dues to go up. So, and right now you're at a 19.98%. We couldn't do it higher, even it can't go higher than 20%, or we will have to do a voting, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been underfunded also.
As Rose just mentioned, your recommended contribution to your reserve for 2025 was recommended at 228,000. But that was also because out of balance of 740,000, it was expected that this year you'd spend 800,000. That
Yeah.
number exponentially high on a 1-year basis of 228,000. If you, after this year, if it was funded as it's saying it should be funded, you're running a very smooth $110,000 a year contribution.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to kind of mention when we look at the next year's budget.
we're still shy of 101,000, and we're gonna continue to be that way, depending on, well, I guess once the roof project is done, we should see a huge drop off in roof repair expense, hopefully, which would then, so again, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes,
Yeah. So
Yes.
that's where your current
that's the
situation.
goal. To have a good job done, actually, too.
Which brings it to that last, if where we would have to then look, we may be looking at, if the report says, yes, we need to do the roof this year, it's funded, it should be funded to be done this year. We don't have, there's concerns, and typically you don't need to hit all those lines, but, it's expected that your reserve expenses of this year are 850,000. So that would be using the cash you got entering the year plus your a fair percent of the contributions of this year, which is why it was skewed high, which is why you saw the manager recommended the highest that we could adjust your dues to without creating a special assessment. Your account is actually like one of the main priorities of our finance managers to review, because we have to look and exhaust every possible option for all of your to not go into special assessment.
correct.
And that's why and that is why I'm saying it is set as one of the main priorities. So with that, I do have made a hard stop. We're at 2:35. Do we have anything else critical that you to be discussed? Well, thank you guys for coming.
All right, thanks.
These only happen if you come, and thanks for serving on your committee. Again, it only happens. So, one last thing for quickly social, I need to just socialize in this meeting. far as it is current, we are accepting candidates for your committee. The candidate process is looking a little bit different this year than it has looked in the past years because we are following in accordance to the bylaws. And the bylaws are written, not how it has been done for many, many years. This being said, instead of, and this is what we're looking at doing, the board is going to look at this, it would take a change of bylaws to continue the process they've done in the past. So it's, their hands may be slightly tied. But what is looking like may happen is all of your candidate applications. In previous years, those were then passed to the board and they would appoint members. That process is not in line with the bylaw. The bylaws has it going by a proxy vote, same way how you gave a committee. So, and then appointment takes place at an annual meeting of your service area. Those annual meetings are currently scheduled to be your Q2 quarterly meeting, so one in place. So it means that this term is running a little longer this year for the current committee members because you're technically, well, the term expired, if nothing has been reset, you continue. So you continue running until that takes place. You do not have to have the election process if you have 3 to 5 candidates because you have to you can see. If you get 6 candidates or more is when the election process.
Yeah. And on the investment strategy, and I know we'll be looking at these numbers throughout the year and reserve that. There is such a thing as a 13-week CD, 6-month CD, you build it up.
Yeah.
So we can get something,
We,
what,
2 years, yes, you start getting something for those, just be on the roof project. Those processes just they don't take too long. How it typically goes, just to your understanding is, as a committee, you say, yes, we want to look at investing, we want to invest, and we can have these conversations with the finance manager, well, what comfortable percentage of raising reserves, which would be about $370,000 into this. Please, finance manager, go see what you got for 13, 6 months.
but as long as we get control over the reserves and we know it's there and we have some consistency, then we can have more confidence in making investment decisions as to how we want to break it down and ladder funds, and then when we anticipate it will be happening.
Yeah, because that's where we got, some of the ones that just switched over have no large expense in the next 2 years. So it's easy, yes, right, so this one, no, we should be do that. Then the process would be, that we say that in this meeting or with the finance manager, then they go offline and look at that, email you guys this, you say, yes, we want to look at it. Then your service area team will put that on a pro board as workshop for them to discuss, where they just review and they're always saying, yes, they never want to stop anyone from investing. So they just say yes. And then it goes on their board meeting 2 weeks later for approval. Once the approval takes place, the finance manager makes that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Great seeing you. My roads, feel better. All right, everyone, I'm going.
Thank you.